So this is a nice part about this. Do I want my notes?
I know I had to write down a few things, so at least I can remember them.
That's good. So you can hear your voice, how it sounds in this, so
Okay.
you can kind of get an idea of where it's at, which is always good. So check, check, check. Good. There we go.
Perfect.
Nice. All right.
Alrighty, perfect.
So you won the contest,
I did, yes.
and you're like, okay, what do I want to talk about?
So what my whole point was of coming on here is kind of like generating more awareness for Ricart right now, obviously being a new business in the new area and stuff like that. And also, to be honest, I follow you and everything, and I was seeing the people who come on and stuff, and you had Jimmy and Tina, and I'm like, I can do that. So let me get in the same seat as those guys. So to win the contest, I was like, oh my God, at least I'm up there with them. But I wanted to just generate a conversation kind of that we can kind of put out there more on what Ricart does, what Ricart is doing, and what we're trying to do in the area.
Amazing. So let's start at the beginning then, and just explain like I don't know what Ricart is.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So what Ricart is a promotional company. So we do promotional products and apparel. So custom apparel for like events, schools, corporations, more off like companies and stuff like that, down to like hospitals and everything like that. So it's just about getting your logo onto something. It's all about branding at the end of the day. What can you put your logo on that's going to make you stand out from everybody else is what I tell everybody. And then our catchphrase kind of with Ricart is we can put your logo on anything except for a dog and a baby. That's so whatever you want to put your logo on, I promise you we can put your logo on. So the whole main part of Ricart is branding. That's what is our big main goal that we always talk about, is not just so much promotional, it's branding and getting branding awareness for our customer at the end of the day. So another big thing that Ricart does is we do a lot of in-house decoration and stuff, which I know is offered around in this area as well too. But seeing the facility that Ricart has is amazing. And the more and more products and equipment that we are getting over the last couple years as technology is changing rapidly, obviously, it just makes me more excited to be a part of the industry, because it's making us it's allowing us to bring more quality to our items and being able to do faster turnaround times and everything, because we can just do it all in-house. So another big thing is we just bought another printer that we can add to the system or to our decoration system that just pushes us that much further and allows us to be able to do more things in-house again.
That's amazing. And so let's unpack some of what you just talked about there and actually talk about some of the kind of more fun parts about it. So you guys talk about how you can put a logo on anything. Mm-hmm. What's the weirdest thing you've put a logo on?
Well, to be honest, not at this job, but another job. I'll never forget the day I was at a counter and somebody came up and asked me to put something on an urn, which was just very different for me at the same time, because I'm like, oh my God, there's an urn on the counter right now.
Was it full?
No, it was not. They're not allowed to be. I've had one customer bring one in full. It was pet, but I would say that was probably one of the weirdest things. But to be honest, like, oh my gosh, I had a guy come in a couple weeks ago with a garbage can, just a silver garbage can. Loves his dog very, very much. So he wanted to get like paw prints, but they were actual, like the picture of his own dog prints from the dog. We put gourmet kibble along with like pictures of him and stuff like that. So it's not that maybe I've seen the weirdest thing. It's just people put stuff on everything.
It's kind of adorable though.
It is adorable.
So like, did you have to design all of this for them, or did he bring in a design? And
sometimes it all depends at the end of the day. But this guy came in and he's like, do this for me. I have the pictures, but this is kind of what I want to do. So he supplied me with all the pictures, and I kind of just came up with the design. Yeah. He had a little bit of a vision inside of his head already, and he's like, I want it to look like this, and I want it to be the chef font that everybody always has and everything. Like
the gourmet.
The gourmet, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Like I can see it with the curly G.
Yeah, he's like, I want it to be that font, and I want the paw prints going up, and then I want a picture of her right on top of it. And I'm like, you love your dog, sir. So yeah,
that's amazing.
It's very cool. Yeah. At the end of the day, honestly, like I said, people have put logos on knives. I've had done like that, like weird.
Like, so when you're saying, so you're doing laser engraving, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. You can do laser engraving down to embroidery, screen printing.
Wow.
Gosh, there's
you guys have so much technology in there now to do that. So I mean, like, I kind of want to branch a lot of this conversation into branding because it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Right. And so, what's your one sentence explanation of branding? Because this one's I ask a lot of people this and they get different results.
My one question about branding.
No. So like, what's your way of defining it? So how would you define it? Someone who's like, oh, what's branding?
Branding is a way to, am I allowed to use the word market?
Yeah, go for it.
Branding is a way for you to market your company and its service and goal, I would say, at the end of the day. Branding, to me, is about getting that person's, not so much logo, but service out into the public of what they can do, and at least show them more of what is possible for them to do with their logo. Because I can't tell you how many times people walk in and they're like, hey, I just want to get my logo on a shirt. And I'm like, well, did you think about pencils? Did you think about backpacks? Did you think about maybe doing, I don't even know, like a pizza cutter or something like that, random at the end of the day? So like, at the end of the day, when somebody goes home and they're like, oh, we are having pizza for dinner, they pull out a pizza cutter and it's got your logo on it. Your branding is still going. Yep. Even when you're not working that right at that moment, your branding is still working because somebody's still using your product with that your logo on it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like about it.
Nice. I've got down to a phrase which is basically branding is what people say about your company when you're not in the room.
That's perfect.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
So it's kind of like what do you expect from, like, I don't know, Mercedes, right?
Exactly.
Like, you don't have a Mercedes logo in front of you. You don't have any kind of branding, quote unquote, in front of you.
Exactly.
But the brand still lives on in your mind. So the branding is the kind of the package that you tie around all of those things. The logo is part of it, right? And it's a strong part of it because it's like your call to action.
Exactly.
Right? So like, my partner back there, he loves Yeti.
Yeah.
All right. And so he's got Yeti on everything, right? So it's like, but it's like, because he believes in what the brand stands for, which is like the exploration, the outdoors, the kind of
it's like
getting reconnected with nature.
It's like what they can bring to the table. And that's another thing too, right? It's like what your brand does. And if Yeti, like example, has such a good standing and people are going to stand behind it and everything, they're going to push it and push it and push it because they love that brand more and they see what it can do. They see that it offers, it meets their expectation. It goes above their expectations and they're willing to support and, like you said, talk about you when you're not in the room. Yeah. And hey, you know what? I'm really sick and tired of my Stanley. I don't know what to do. Get Yeti. Get Yeti. Right.
Yeah. It's so good because like the funny thing is you can blend brands now.
Exactly.
Right. So a great example is you can have a Yeti mug and put your logo on it. So you're kind of aligning yourself with the beliefs of Yeti.
Exactly.
So people who like Yeti based things, you can actually have that.
Exactly. You know? Right down to, we get anything and everything. Obviously I'm crossing my fingers for a sale, but they have the list of, or the price of some of the items that we can get. Like if somebody wants to get something, let's just say. So
you're saying you can source the actual things that you put the logos and all that on as well?
Yeah. Okay. So like, let's just say, Cuisinart, is that how you say it, or something like that? Like down to like Cuisinart, the blenders and stuff like that. Yeah. If you want to put your logo on that, we can do that.
Go for it. Yeah.
Like there's a service, like there's a supplier that offers that, and that's at the end of the day. I'm just thinking. I always think of, not that I want people to spend thousands of dollars, but I do. Yeah. But it's like, what can I give my customer, my consumer, that they're going to use at the end of the day and appreciate and still remember me and come back completely. So there are customers who I have who do really expensive watches, and they give those to their customers. Or cufflinks is a huge thing right now that I've been doing too, which I didn't realize was a big thing, but cufflinks too. Stanley's is that too, and Yetis and everything. But it's not always about the value, but I do see that the more value you put into a product that you're going to give out to somebody, I guarantee you the more you'll get back.
The better it feels. If I get like a knockoff Yeti versus a Yeti, I'll be like, well, I feel the brand, like, you know, equity is there.
Exactly.
Right? And so like I'm in the marketing area, we shouldn't be kind of like influenced by marketing, but we always are.
We always are.
From everything we do, like from the cameras I'm using right now to the lights I'm using, you know, like it's all been influenced by something.
Exactly, right? Everything is influenced by something. And it's like every day, even scrolling through Facebook, like you're not working and you're scrolling through Facebook and you just see things and you're like, oh, okay, that'd be good for work. Or, oh, I'm going to try that when I go to work tomorrow. Or that's a cool post. I'm going to try and do that. And I'm like, you're not working right now, Riley, but your mind is always working. Like it's always working on things. Like even if you're at the mall, you see something that's kind of like a marketing way or just something, how somebody's doing something. I'm always like, okay, keep that in the back of my mind and I'll try that later.
Yeah.
So
what drove you into the marketing sphere? Because I mean, I've known you since you were at GLI, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So then you've gone from there to Riley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ricart.
So Ricart, sorry.
Well, the whole story on how it all started is I actually was working at Dewar's, the Dewar's Bakery,
okay.
And during the COVID and stuff like that. And not that it was bad or anything, but it was just some things were happening. So I just took a little bit of a step back for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of struggling with what do I want to do at the end of the day? Because bringing it all the way back now, if we're off topic, but in high school, I wasn't really taught what you could do and not do. I kind of went to a high school that was like math, science, English. This is what you can go to high school or you can go to college for.
Was that local?
That was local, and I won't say the name to be nice. So I went to school for business because I was like, all right, this is what I have to do, even though I am creative, but this is what I have to do. My boyfriend at the time, was going to school in Welland, and I went down to see him the first week, and his roommate was painting, and I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm doing art and design foundation. And I was like, are you kidding me?
That's an option?
That's an option. Yeah. That Monday that I went back into Humber, I went to the guidance counselor. We talked about it. I dropped out, started art, and I was just astonished that I was like, okay, this is kind of something you can do and everything. But I always loved falling into the back of it with business. Always business and creativeness was always kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. So going back to my doers thing, I was doing a photo series, so I did photography throughout COVID. That was called Self-Quarantined, and I capitalized the letters selfie in it. From that,
smart.
Yeah. From that, I had a gentleman who was running Fully Promoted at the time in Sterling, and he came into Doers and he said, "Don't take this as a creepy thing." He's like, "But I've been following your profile." He's like, "I'm just blown away with the talent that you have." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "And I've kind of seen what you've been doing for Doers." He's like, "Would you be willing to kind of come this way?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn straight I will. Like, this is kind of what I want to do and stuff, business and being creative. Not that knowing completely, but then being in that industry for the first year, I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I don't know why, but I like dealing with people. I love customer service. I love getting to help people. Mm-hmm. I love getting to be creative and getting to help people with their logo, their branding at the end of the day, while doing customer service meets every single one of those things in my heart. Yeah. So from Fully Promoted, I did go to GLI, and then from GLI, now I am at Ricart. So nice. Been in the industry now for about 4.5 years now.
Wow, and you're a manager now, right?
I'd like to call myself that, but yes, I am the only one at the Belleville location right now. So nice. Getting it to grow and everything. But yeah, we are looking to get some more people and stuff as we do grow.
As you scale, right? Yeah.
It's growing. Yeah. Obviously, right now, this year, and I hate to say it, with the economy, right? Things didn't go.
We actually, across the board, so we saw like a massive shift in how things are done.
Exactly.
So I've actually even seen my own company change dramatically from where it was to where it is now. And it's in a safer spot now because it's in we have more income streams, to be like blunt. There's a lot of different ones versus like 2. Mm-hmm. We now have like 7 because it's like we have different offerings that we can do that help our clients.
Exactly.
And so, but now it's more of a piecemeal too. So you can turn to me and say, hey, we need this, this, and this, or you can package it all together in one big package.
Exactly.
So that's the nice part about it. So I think a lot of businesses had to adapt and change this year.
Of course.
Marketing budgets got slashed dramatically. Like we've seen like 60% of marketing budgets get slashed down.
Oh,
which is insane.
It's insane. And that's like not 99, but a lot of responses that I've gotten back for even just right now is, hey, can I get a quote on this? And then they come back and they're like, crap, our budget is
price shopping.
It's done. This is my budget. And they're like, and it's hard. And I feel the pain for them too. Well, not the pain, but like the difficulty on their end too, trying to accommodate everything with the price budget that they have. And it sucks completely being on this end of it as well too, because
it will work, right? And it helps them. Yeah.
But the one thing that kills me is like I saw the inflation, right, with everything, right? So it's like I remember how much a piece of coroplast cost. Was like the signs that everybody has on their lawns and everything when I first started at Fully Promoted, and it was not pennies, but it was dirt cheap. Yeah. To see the price of it now, I'm like, how do I justify turning that around now and being like, hey, this is how much it is for a piece of plastic?
Everybody knows that the costs are going up, but then it's like everybody keeps raising those rates right now to the point where it's going to be a case of the economy is just going to stagnate because no one's going to be able to afford anything. So.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's some suppliers and consumer at that end have been really good about trying to keep their prices down, but you see it like repeat orders. So people who ordered last year at Christmas coming back being like, hey, Riley, can I just do the same order? And it's like, yeah, but it's $1.30 more now. And they're like, holy moly. And it's like, I'm not trying to price gouge you, but this is the price I'm getting from my supplier. Like a lot of suppliers had to put their stuff up because they have to, right? They got to accommodate things. And that was not kind of sad, but it was just kind of crazy to see the influx of pricing on certain things being like, oh, I was selling this 4 years ago and it was this much, and now I'm selling it now and it's almost double the price of what I was selling it. And it's just...
So what are some items that if you're a budget conscious business, because I always like to try and find things that people can pull from these, right?
Of course.
So if you're a small business and you have a small marketing budget, we'll give them $1,000. Yep. Right? What are some of the things that you see being a highly effective thing?
Perfect. Biggest thing I would say is hats and toques. Everybody likes hats. Everybody likes toques. Lots of people will do those. You can get 24, 48 hats and they just hand them out to customers. That's a big thing that people turn around and like to do because everybody's always wearing hats, right? Like you're wearing a hat. I was wearing a hat before too, and it's like I have so many hats at home. Like everybody, hats, toques, stuff like that. Pens as well too. A lot of people do pens. Not that I don't like to try and push pens, but at the end of the day, everybody always needs a pen. At the end of the day, when you're going to write your grocery list, pick that pen up off the fridge and it says Ricart, it's always there, right? Yeah. Like little things like that. Even little paper, like I hate not pushing paper, but like even
I actually really like the little notepads.
Yeah, paper notepads and stuff like that. I try and think about things that people are going to constantly use. So like a notepad, like a sticky little notepad, Ricart at the top of it. Cost effective, probably $2 a piece, maybe $2.50.
And you can just leave them for your clients to, right? Because if you're in a conversation somewhere and you don't have a pen and paper, being able to grab something, right, is brilliant. Because I know that we did my wife and I went to Ottawa recently, and we went and stayed at the Chateau Laurier. Yep. And in there they had these little notepads and little pens. So that went home with Trish because she's like, this is perfect because you made some like grocery notes and stuff like that. And so it's like
that's their brand, right? And they're like, here, we're gonna give you this. You're gonna go home. You're gonna use it, and then
and it's also a fond memory too, right?
Yeah, so it's like when you go back, you're gonna be like, let's go there again because even if it was. Not saying pennies, but even if it was such a little gift for them to give you, it's the thought that matters. Yes. At the end of the day.
Well, and so that brings it nicely into like the branding thing too, which is brand is not just about the logo. It's not just about all that, but it's about the emotion that you get from that brand too. Exactly. So if you're, if you're a small business, so let's say we'll take roofers. I use roofers way too often. Like roofers should be like just listening to this. But if you're a roofer and you gave out like woolly hats, toques, right? So that, usually the time you're really looking at your roof is times where you can't actually get it fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, can I get through the winter? right? So that's when you think about, if you have a toque with it on, then at least you're like, hey, I remember these roofers, right?
Remember these roofers. I'll go back and I'll get them or something.
They can literally just hand it out while they're doing the quote.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like, or that's another thing, right? Like when they're handing out quotes, here's a pen, here's a hat, here's a keychain or something.
The
like
leave
that.
behinds are huge.
Leave behinds are huge. And that was like, that's one thing that I see a lot of right now, because I think a lot of businesses right now are underestimating the thought or the process of a thing, like a product.
Yep.
And because we're such an social media technology influenced place now,
Yep.
I deal with it on my end too. And it's more, all right, let's not do that tactical item. Yep. Let's just focus on social media. We'll do technology based things. We'll send out emails. We'll send out coupons. Yep. We'll send out other things. And I think businesses are more focusing on that, and they're missing out on that little tactical item now that people actually really want to take and have.
Well, and I think if you start looking at businesses in general, right? So you look at like you've got your service-based businesses, your B2C, B2B, all of those, there are elements of human connection.
Exactly.
So I would say, like, if you are a software company, for example, having like a hat probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Right. So you got to understand like where, tactile products matter for your brand, and also play into it too.
Exactly.
So I want to go on the opposite side. I want to talk about what's a bad concept of an idea. So for example, like a bad idea for, let's say we'll take, I don't know, like a bakery. What would be something that they shouldn't use as part of their tactile marketing?
That's a good question.
Right, because I mean the pizza cutter is an easy one, right?
Yeah.
Like that one's like, you can do that one, and that the pizza cutter is going to be
a huge thing,
because it's bakery, pizza dough, right? You can do that. So
even I'll bring my thing back to Doers here. So like, I'm gonna say just the things we did there. So they had like bags, right? Because everybody needs a Doers bag. They had T-shirts, right? Because Doers was so big with T-shirts and everything. But I think something that wouldn't work for a company like that would probably be like, let's get backpacks or something. Like, let's do, everybody loves Doers, let's get into backpacks or something. Or I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how Yetis would go. Maybe everybody would like a Yeti with the Doers logo on it as well too, but that's a big investment for them to make.
I would say based on the fact that people are showing up to buy bread, which is a lower cost item, that would not be a good choice.
Exactly, right? So I don't think
strategically.
Yeah, so I don't think that would kind of fit into their thing, or like just higher end products, right? Like now I'm going to think back to like kitchenware or something. So like bottle openers, they don't need bottle openers or something like that. They don't need key rings, keychains. Well, sometimes like keychain. It depends. Honestly, taking back now. Besides Doer, I love you, Corey. People do love the Doers brand though. They do want everything with the brand on it. Like,
but I think there's limits to like it making sense.
Exactly. So it's at the end of the day on what's going to make sense and not make sense. So I can't tell you how many people have came to me and they're like, hey, this is my business and I want to do this. And I'm like, that doesn't really make sense for your business. You're a golf company. Like, let's just say that you're, I had a company come in and he was a golf, they're actually called Golf Shapers. If you didn't know, they build golf.
Golf Shapers?
Yeah, that's their title. And they make golf courses. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they're called Golf Shapers.
They're not called like landscapers?
No, they're called Golf Shapers.
Of course not. Of course not.
So he was just really gung-ho into just doing everything. He's like, let's do this and let's do that. I want to do keychains for like all my things and stuff, or all my machinery. And I'm like, that's a good idea. We'll do that and everything. And then he's like, I want to get all the guys hats and everything. Let's do that. All right, let's get hats. And then it's like, he started just kind of like, all right, so let's get into, I don't know, like everybody needs disposable straws and stuff like that and everything, like, or the disposable straws, let's do the straws and everything. And I'm like, hear me out, dude. I said, half of your staff is older men. I said, you're going to give them this and they're never going to use it.
Just get chucked.
It might get given to their wife, but I guarantee you they're probably not going to use it.
It's probably going to sit in the back of the car.
Exactly.
Get like bent in half by having something in the back of the car.
Exactly, right? Like, don't do something like that. What else were they doing? It's a hit and miss thing sometimes, depending on it. Like chargers or something like that too, right? Like if you got a charger from some company like that, like the Golf Shape company, I think it would kind of like it's a hit and miss with that product. Right?
Okay, so how do you, because you obviously have some strategy behind this. So what is your strategy behind it? And then we might run through like an example to see that in action.
My strategy when somebody comes to the counter or into Ricart is what their business is, what do they do, and what can I give them that's a promotional product or an apparel product or something tactical that fits within their business.
Okay.
So
let's say a real estate agent.
Real estate. Pens. They're going to do pens nonstop.
Okay.
I have a lot of people who do clips, like clips that are
like
in the
shapes
of houses. Yeah, the shape of a house.
It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, we got a couple other little things that I see. There's a little tool set right now that I have out in the showroom, and it's in the shape of a house, but it's a little tool set. Right?
That's actually quite cute. So they can hand it off when they hand over the keys. It's like
hand over the keys. And it honestly, that kind of triggered my mind into thinking that when me and my fiance bought our house and our real estate agent gave us a branded knife and a cutting board. And
that's brilliant. With your name on it?
Well, it was there.
Oh, they're like, yeah.
But it was there, like, it was a high-end knife and a high-end cutting board.
See, I would have gone, if I was the real estate agent, this is just, so where I come in is I come in from the customer's viewpoint.
Yep.
So what journey am I going through in your business? And so what I would do as that real estate agent and make this slight adjustment is instead of putting your logo on it, which makes it, brandable, is make it with the family name of the people that you sold the house to.
Yeah, that would have been
right?
cool.
With the knife with a nice little quote, right? Like some beautiful thing about home, and then wrapped the entire thing, right? And gift it over like a gift.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I would have done something like that, and then maybe a tea towel with the logo on it.
Yeah.
Right, something lightweight that I can have like multiples of, but at the same time, that way, when they go to use that knife, they'll remember it. I'm like, man, who's that real estate agent? And then they go, oh wait, they gave us a tea towel too. So you have to have that combo, but with high value items like that, having some customization.
Oh yeah.
As a homeowner, they would be like, dude.
Exactly.
Like,
and to be honest,
speak to this person.
Yeah, and still to this day, even though we're not getting something physical, we've been in our house now for about 3 years.
Yep.
They invite us to something every Christmas.
Yep.
So you get an email. We just got invited. They're doing a bowling.
Do you get the Christmas card?
Yeah, you get a Christmas card.
Do you guys do Christmas cards, by the way?
We do Christmas cards. I do everything.
When's your cutoff? Because people are, if we send this out quickly, then people are going to be like, when's their cutoff?
Probably a week or two, I would say.
Okay.
About a week or two right now. We're pretty good, yeah. About
a
week or two right now. A lot of product we hold in-house too, so we can do that in-house.
So that means you're not affected by some strikes going on?
Exactly, right now.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, how's that affecting you?
I don't get to see a lot of it because I'm in Belleville from Tuesday to Friday. But when I go in on Monday and I see the shipping department and everything, a lot of our shippers already use UPS and Purolator, which is good. But a lot of things like just little invoices and stuff like that, we are just sitting on right now, just piles of. One thing that really, not that it's affecting me, but it's one thing that kind of put a damper in my holiday marketing thing is we had a supplier who was giving out free pens for every month for like each sales support. Yep. And just being so busy and everything, right? I got a big pile of them and I mailed them all out. And then I had another pile and I was like, all right, I'll mail these out next week. What happens?
Too late. Yeah.
Strike. So now I'm sitting on these pens and I'm kicking myself because now I'm like, how do I get these pens to people without now putting them in the mail?
Are they all local?
They are local. So
could you do a temporary then go to like Bevel Neighbors and say to someone, hey, I have a delivery job and it's going to take you a week. Here's the rate. And just sub it around that way and have some kid drive them around.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually. Yeah, it's a good idea.
And then just for a temporary fix, because I know like the problem is with the Canada Post thing is we just don't know how long it's going to take.
And it's kind of scary even just reading about it and thinking and just thinking about what can happen. Because like there's one side of the table that's like Canada Post is never coming back, I don't think. And then there's a side that's like, no, it'll work out. But then, yeah, you read those comments that are like, no, Canada Post is kind of SOL at this point. And it's like, that's kind of scary. Yeah. All of our suppliers have sent out emails saying, like, please give us an extra couple days. We're trying to switch things around. Yep.
People are switching over to like Intercom and people like that, though, right? There's like FedEx, there's private parties that will do it.
DHL and all that stuff. But the one thing we're running into now. And to be honest, I have not had one customer, and I know it's only been like a week or two or whatever, but I haven't had one customer balk. And I have to say thank you so much for that. I never charged for shipping with things and stuff because we were getting such a great deal.
Yep.
That being said, I mailed out a jacket a couple months ago, and it cost me $16 to mail that out through UPS, and that was with our discount.
Yeah.
I mailed out the same jacket the other day, and it cost us almost $46.
With UPS?
With UPS.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're gouging, but they are right now.
Yeah.
Their prices have gone
up.
Well,
they're the only people in town that can do it.
Exactly,
you know?
right? Yeah. So things have gone up so high. So just being honest with people, being like, hey, I'm not going to upcharge your shipping, but shipping might have to be accommodated into this right now.
Yep.
Nobody's been like, well, that's not fair. Everybody's been like, no, that's cool. Like, we totally understand. So I've been super thankful for that. But there's a couple things I have in the mail, some samples right now that I really wanted to use for Christmas. There was one I had. It was called, have you ever seen on Facebook right now, the Loud Cup?
No.
So it's a cup. I don't know how well it's going to, I've gotten hit and miss things about it, but I feel like I could make it come off. So it's a cup. It's for hockey and like baseball and stuff like that. And you can put your drink into it, but then if you flip it around, there's like a whistle kind of in it. So then it's like blowing and so it's like a 2-in-1 kind of. And I was like, I'm going to push this before Christmas. I said, this would be cool kind of to do for hockey teams or something. Yeah. So I waited, and then I emailed my rep, and I was like, hey, where's my cup? And
where's my sample?
He's like, oh, well, let me see. And he emails me back. He's like, I'm so sorry, Riley. They stuck it in Canada Post. I'm like, that sucks.
This is not going to be ready now.
This is not going to be ready. So a lot of our suppliers have switched over to UPS and everything. Or a lot of suppliers have just said, hey, we're going to have a bit of a delay. But I can't say that. I can't say any of our suppliers have said, no, we can't help you.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do. But yeah, it's affecting a little bit now because like I use Canada Post even though last Christmas just to send out Christmas cards and stuff to my clients. Like that's what I like to do is just being like, hey, thank you for your order. Here's something. Yeah. And I know it sounds like something so little to some people, but to me, I'm stressed out about it. I'm like, how am I going to...
Well, it's part of your business, right?
Yeah. I'm like, how am I going to reach out to people? Because back to that tactical thing is emails work, yes, phone calls work too, but I'd rather give somebody something physical. So even back to my pen thing. So when I was mailing out pens to people, the amount of people who actually wrote back to me and said, holy crap, you took the time to write me a letter?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to physically write out your name, write out something for you, take time that was individual for everybody and write it out to you. And not that I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was quite surprised by the amount of business people who were like, people don't do this anymore. Like, you took the time to write me a letter. Like, thank you so much. Here, let's start the conversation now. So that was kind of my in with some people. And now I'm like, great, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So
I think like there's a nice blend that you can do too, right? So like if you've got your initial kind of outreach via digital, but then also connecting on that physical level, like going out and saying hi and going all those things, right? So businesses tend to get really panicked in marketing because they think it's all to do with online or all to do with radio, all to do with TV, and it's like it's just not that way.
It's not.
Right. So
exactly.
If we look at how buyers act now, buyers have broken the usual, because what would usually happen is like you'd see a commercial on TV and then you'd go and buy the thing in the shop, right? So you're like, oh, I really want that. I have to go to wherever, right? Or you have this catalogs that you'd order on the catalog, get on the phone, right? Order your thing, and then it would get mailed out in like 6 weeks, right? So that was the old day, right? Exactly, yeah. So now fast forward to digital world. Now you have your digital marketing that points to a website, right? And then people are buying there. That used to be the case. Yeah. So now what's happening is, and I blame TikTok for it, to be honest. Like TikTok did such a good job of this and it was brilliant. Where basically it's now based on information and value of information. So you send me a commercial on Facebook. I see it. First thing I do is go check out your website. Then I go on to YouTube. I then go on to Instagram. I go and see, and people, falsely call this social proof. This isn't social proof. This is just showing the brand online everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So they kind of see, well, how do they show up on TikTok? How do they show up on Instagram? And so those are the questions they start asking. And this is where it gets way more complex in your marketing stack than it used to. Like your marketing stack used to be 2 pieces. It's now 5 pieces.
Exactly. It's like, I think back to, like, obviously, I know you're going to say, you're young, Marley, but it's like, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I was in college 12 years ago now. I'm like, my God. And I did a marketing course back then. And I'm like, nothing. Nothing.
Throw it out.
Like I learned about SEOs. I learned about Google like analytics. We learned about like Facebook and algorithms and stuff. But I'm like now trying to, I feel like now, as you said, like you try and keep up with it. I'm like, all right, now I understand TikTok. I get it. And then it's like, bam, here's something else. And I'm like, okay, now I got to relearn all of this now. And then,
but you don't really. So think of it this way: it's like there are a few key things that you have to bear in mind.
Yeah.
Right? You've got your online presence, which the only thing is really under your control is the website.
Exactly.
So make sure your website looks killer, right? So that's where it should represent your brand fully. Your second is your physical presence, which is your branding, which is all of that stuff, right? So like when you see me with this hat, this is a AMP branded hat. Just doesn't have AMP on it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's a very specific thing, right? And so by having those layers, you can, yes, dabble in those other layers and you can become really good at those other layers, but they're non-essential based on things that you can control all the time.
Exactly.
Right? So I always tell people, it's like, yes, social media is arguably the biggest marketing strategy right now. It's also organic strategy, which if anybody doesn't know what organic strategy is slow, super slow.
Yeah.
Right. So it's quicker to go out there and run ads. If you want fast content, if you want fast people coming in, it's better to just run an ad. Period.
Totally, completely.
Right.
And like that's the fastest way you're going to get out to people.
But you're also going to spend, right? So exactly. Yeah. So you've got like your scales. So when we look at physical branding, especially when I'm talking to my clients, like that's the number one thing we go to. It's like if you're showing up on a job site as an electrician, if you don't have minimum a hat, what are you doing? Right? Like what are you doing? You need to have your logo and your hat on there, and your logo doesn't need to be crazy. Pick a font that you like, put your name and electrical.
Exactly.
Done.
That's my thing too, and that gets into a whole other topic. Is like I'll have people come in and like they'll be like, hey, I'm starting out a roofing business or something like that. This is my logo. And they will give me a picture. And I'm like...
Clip art. Those are my favorites.
I'm like, all right, dude, can we just talk about it? I'm like, I don't want to put down your art or anything like that.
You're the opposite of me. I'm just like, I look and I'm like, what is this dog shit?
I try and be nice about it.
I'm just not. I've just got to I'm old enough and jaded enough now. I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, you know
like, this is horrible.
I know. And you know what? Like, I use Canva all the time. So I'm going to be whatever using this, saying this, but I hate Canva at the same time because I can't tell you how many people come in and then they're like, here's my logo. And I'm like, okay, I know you got that off of
Canva. Can you export it as an SVG? Yep. And then it still sucks.
It still sucks. And 9 out of 10 times it's 17 goddamn colors. And that gets into a whole other topic.
So what's the problem with colors?
It's all depends on decoration, I was going to say. So that comes into it. I'll go to that. So the more colors and stuff like that, the more... sometimes for decoration, you're kind of limited at that point, depending on how many colors.
So when you're saying decoration, can you define that for us?
Yeah, so decoration in a point of screen printing, embroidery, transfers, lasers, printing on papers and stuff. So let's just put it down to screen printing. So screen printing, when it comes to it, is all about screens, obviously, at the end of the day.
Okay, so you have like a sheet, basically, that you lay down on the garment, we'll say. And then you run like...
the thing across,
paint or whatever it is across it?
It's called ink across it.
Ink, yeah.
Yeah, ink across it.
Feel free to correct me all the time because I know nothing about this.
To be honest, I just call it paint all the time, and then I've been
It looks like paint.
It does, but it's ink.
Okay.
So we put the ink, right? So with your logo, we'll just go off your logo on the top of your hat right now. So you have a 2-color logo. So let's just say you wanted to screen print. At that point, we have to put in 2 screens. We're going to have one screen for the white because you have Thrive, Survive, and then we're going to need another screen for the red that's going through it. So that's 2 colors, right? So that's one screen that the shirt's going to go down and get printed, and then there's going to be another screen. So obviously the more colors, sometimes the more cost it's going to be for...
Kind of makes sense because you're using more ink.
Exactly, right? So
and you're using another screen.
Yeah.
And
So
you're using more time.
exactly. So I just had a customer come in and he had a 9-color logo. And he
Is that possible? Can you guys do a 9-color?
Yeah, we can go all the way up to 9 colors.
Do you charge by screen?
We try and work it out. So sometimes we do charge by screen, but depending on how it is, we can kind of work it out and stuff. So this guy came in with his design and I explained the whole process. I'm like, all right, it's going to be, I was like, this is like, we're going to have to send this off, to be honest, to be split into separate screens. Because if somebody comes in with like, let's just say, like, what's a good example? Like, you know, those old t-shirts that like people would get with like the faded, and it's got like words, it's just like fadedness and everything. So that's kind of like what his t-shirt looked like. He's like, I want to have this.
Did it look badass?
It looked wicked.
Yeah.
It looked so, I was honestly kind of jealous.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to make an extra one just for me. Yeah.
I did kind of ask. I'm like, can I have one? He's like, yeah, take one. I was like, no, I'm paying for this. And he's like, no, take it. But so he had a 9-color design, right? And I explained the whole process to him. I'm like, this is what it's going to be, because we can do this route to save you costs, but it's not going to be the way you want. If you want to do it this way through screen printing, which is going to be 9 separate screens, because you need to put your yellow, your green, your orange, your turquoise all onto separate screens, it's going to be a little bit more. But if you want to go this way, I can get the cost down for you. It's not going to be the way that you want it, but we can do it this way and we can get it cost effective way with colors. So that's when it comes in with colors. So sometimes if people come in and they have an image, right? Because some people do have an image. We still do have options. Embroidery is incredible. I can't tell you how many times I've sent something off and gotten it back and I'm like, holy moly, like this can be turned into an embroidery file. So 9 out of 10 times what people bring me, we can turn into an embroidery file. Yeah. The only issue we ever run into with embroidery files is texts and stuff like that, right? So people will make their logos and it'll be Ricart, and then they do branded apparel and promo, like my shirt here. So it's, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it here. So some of the times we kind of, some of the times we kind of opt out to do it because it's just too small of text. We can put it in there.
Because you're talking about legibility at that point.
Exactly.
Because people forget that when you're doing these kind of things is that there's a thread and there's a needle making this and there's a physical limit.
Limits, right? Yeah. And sometimes people don't understand that, but most of the time you just have to go back. So
branding and legibility is crazy. So I know, like, I have this conversation constantly with clients about how big their logo should be and how small it can go.
I would love to do a logo class. Like, that would be my dream, is to do a logo class.
I'll host it for if you want.
Honestly, I would love to, just to have people who are looking to create logos to create it. And not all about, like, at the end of the day, making it, okay, when you go to get your logo printed, this is what you got to think of. But the less flashy it is, make it 1 or 2 colors. I learned this in school too. The simpler it is, the better it is for you as well.
So I will say right now, there is a shift. So what you're talking about makes sense and is true to a certain point.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so let me give you this little caveat on this is, if your brand is fully digital, you have a lot more flexibility than if your brand is kind of physical and digital. So we'll start with that. Like, you know, you can't do a gradient very easily with threads, like stuff like that. But you can do with digital. So there's a couple of tricks you can get around it. And I've been working this field long enough with designers long enough to know what looks good and what doesn't.
Exactly.
And also, I also have these conversations with clients all the time where it's like, well, I don't like this logo this way, I want to change it and do this, and they don't understand it changes the whole dynamic of the logo by just moving little things in it.
Of course.
And so it's like explaining those things. But the main part of a logo is it needs to be identifiable.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah, you want people to look at it and recognize it. So if you're going to do Ash, like yours is huge and big.
Yeah, AMP is just like bold, because that's part of our brand.
You're going to recognize it. You're going to see it that. But if you have big picture and then tiny text, you have to think about that from standing back. Because I see a sign, because I'm in Peterborough on Mondays, and I pass this one guy's logo. It's on a tree, and I see it all the time, and I'm like, I can't even read that sign. Yeah. There's so much on there, and part of me wants to reach out to him. You know what? After this, I'm going to.
Maybe you can send me a video of it.
Yeah.
And I'll roast it online. Because I'm starting to do that, because I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at some ads going like, you need to know that this was not good, or you need to know this was fantastic.
Exactly.
And so, and
Yeah, and I see it all the time, and I'm like, dude, like, that is terrible. Like, and you can't have that. But
identifiable means at any distance, which is really tough because it's like, you can have like your small Ricart logo here, or you can have it giant on the wall. So we need to be able to identify quickly.
Exactly.
The colors need to be, continuously the same.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
So that's a big thing too, is like, I always think about like big, huge corporate logos and stuff like that. Think about Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Kellogg's, just all of them, right?
Yeti. Is a great example, yeah.
They're all one color, very simple, maybe 2 color logos, because they want to be, the less your brain has to process when it sees it, if it's like, that's it.
Yep.
It's quicker for them, right?
Yep.
So the more they put into it, so let's just say like Quaker, so they got the whole person and everything like that.
Yep.
They've done such a good job at marketing that when you see that,
you recognize it. Yeah.
You recognize
it's like Kellogg's is a complicated logo.
Exactly.
But it works because you recognize the font. And it's like, you could put Coca-Cola and Kellogg's side by side and be like, wow, they're actually kind of similar in how they feel.
Exactly.
But that's because they were originally hand-drawn.
Exactly.
Right? And they were actually, and they just traveled over.
I love the whole thing. I love the whole thing about all that, too. It's like, that was all hand-drawn, and now we do it digitally.
Do you guys do any of that design work? Or is this something that you do like low-level design, mid-level, high-level? Like, where do you classify yourselves?
Right now, we do it all. I do.
Yeah.
Right now, not saying that as I'm growing the business,
Yeah.
I do have that time to do it.
Yeah.
So there has been a couple companies that I have done some designs for. Tooting my horn, we did Reed's Dairy. So we did a bunch of T-shirts for them. He was like, Riley, I am not creative whatsoever. This is what we've done in the past. Come up with something. So I just came up with a bunch of designs. And to be honest, it's funny being on the other side of it too, because I'm always like, oh, I really like that one, or I really like that one. And then you send it off and they come back and they're like, hey, this is the one we want to print. And I'm like,
it's not the one I wanted.
That's the one I wanted, but it's still good, right? So then they're like, nope, this is the one we want. We go ahead. So now I'm working with another company from Whitby, but she's from Sterling, this area too, and she has a ball hockey league. Same thing. She's like, this is what we've done in the past. I'm like, all right, give me a couple days. I'll come back to you. Came up with some designs. I thought she was going to fall over yesterday in the showroom. She's like, amazing. This is awesome. Yeah. So depending on what the level is, I can do it. But if there's something extreme, so let's go back to Reed's Dairy. They have an old image of their, like when it first stood, first was there, and they want to get that on a T-shirt. So what they've done is they brought us the picture, actually in the frame. That's how we got it brought to us, is in the frame. And then I just took a picture of it with my camera, so it could be like the highest resolution, and then we send it off to our graphic designer, who then will do the best he can to recreate it and do stuff. And that's one guy who just works on that.
That's
stuff.
all he does,
and he just does all of that. He's amazing. So then he'll look at it and do all of that work. Or if we have a customer who comes in and he's like, hey, this is kind of what my logo looks like, willing to be open, I'll put that in for the production manager and just be like, hey, let me know if this logo, I know the logo's not going to work, let me know what you're going to do. And then he usually lists ABC why.
Yeah, I love that, yeah. And like, staying on with the logos for just a little bit longer, a good logo can withstand the test of time. And it also sends a message.
Exactly.
Right. So when you talked about the AMP logo being very bold and very kind of like simplified, right? Like part of our pillars of our business is we want to simplify the process for you, so it makes it simple.
Exactly.
Because we believe in simplicity scales, complexity fails.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I like that.
The second is we wanted it to be bold, so we want to stand out differently because we understand that in order to get attention, you need to be different, right? And then third is like the quality. So like, that's why we have the serif, is because, and so I didn't actually like my logo.
Really?
So when I first got it, so I had my designer, he worked it up, and I was like, bro, I'm not really keen on this. And he's like, just sit with it. I'm like, dude, it's got the weird like Assassin's Creed A, and then it's got this, and then I was like, I don't feel it, you know? This doesn't vibe in what I want. I said I wanted like sans serif, I wanted, blocky, and he's like, trust me on this. And so he walked me through it and he explained that and said like, this is why we're doing it. He's like, you talk about all these things, you need your logo to replicate. And so for like the first 2 years I didn't like my logo.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I really was like, and then over time I was like, yeah, this makes sense to me now. So like, liking a logo is not for me. It's not for the business owner.
Yep.
It's not for the people doing the thing. It's for
like
the
that
people that are buying the services.
Yep.
Right? When I push that in front of my clients, they're all like, "Oh my God, I love that. It's simple. It's bold." I'm like, okay.
I don't.
So that's the weirdest part. And so being on the side now where I'm sitting there going like, this isn't for you. Like, I'm making this logo, but it's not for you. It's for, the hockey parents. It's for, the people putting tiles on their roof.
Exactly.
Roofers getting a shout out again.
Exactly.
Like for real estate agents, for, pet sitters, all of those things, you have to look at it from the client perspective.
Yep, exactly.
And that's honestly, if you can, when you're building a logo, right, and I'll happily sit in and make a logo masterclass for you if you want.
I would love to, yeah.
It's about the client.
Exactly.
Put your ego aside. Don't even really consider it other than from that angle.
Yeah.
And if you can't, bring someone in who can.
Exactly, right? So it's like you can come in, like I can't tell you how many people have come in who don't have a logo, and they're like, we do construction, we want the house, we want these colors, and we want this, that, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, I'll make that for you. And I make it for them because I'm like, all right, this is what you want. And then I will make a couple. I usually 10 out of 10 times I'll make a couple other versions and being like, all right, this is what I think you should do.
Yep.
And then when we show it, I just like to explain it to them, being like, okay, this is your logo. This is why you're going to have a little bit more problems when we run into doing promotional stuff, or let's just say, or decorating. Although a lot of things, back to colors, is promotional products. A lot of things, as technology is changing, there's obviously printers and everything coming out that are different, but a lot of promo products only offer one color, right? So
like black and
white, like, and now they're starting to do like red, blue, and green and stuff. But there's a lot of promotional products and suppliers out there, or even us still, that the area is just, it's not big enough to put, let's say, Tony the Tiger. You can't put Tony the Tiger on there. We can put Kellogg's if you want, but we can't put Tony the Tiger. It's going to be way too small. I promise you. That's the thing. It's that at the end of the day, not that we've ever pushed things to show people and been like, haha, this is what it's going to look like. But I will say, like, if somebody comes in back to Kellogg's and they're like, hey, we want our logo, Tony the Tiger, on this, I'm going to be like, it's not going to work. Well, why not? I'm like, because it's just too small of a process. Well, I don't care if that's what I want. And I'm like, okay, we'll do it. We'll print it. And I'll show them. I'll go back and be like, okay. And
that's when you're like, I'll print a test. I am not printing out a whole batch until you sign off on this.
Exactly. We don't do anything without,
Do you have sign-offs on everything?
Yeah. Proofs, sign-offs. We usually do mock-ups and then proofs. Nothing goes ahead until proofs are done. Like, need to be approved. Emails, in writing.
Yes.
So then you go back to the customer and you show them. And you're just like, okay, do you see this? Like, you can see Tony the Tiger, but you can't see Tony the Tiger. I'm like, it looks like a blob of orange and black at that point, right? Because you got to think about too. I always just think about our machine, like it's like this microphone, honestly, and it's like, what can I push on there that's gonna go down like a stamp that's still gonna be legible? Right?
That's why they have those boxes usually stick on microphones, right? Because they figured out that problem is that you can change the color of the windscreen, but that's it. That's
exactly it, right? So that's a lot of things that I always see too, is like. And back to you saying you'll just rip them apart. I feel bad. Like, somebody comes in and they're like...
That comes with experience, though.
Yeah, and they come in and they're like, oh, this is what I want. This is what I want. And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have to make a one-color version if we want to do this. Well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I know you got the fading and the shading and you got the multiple colors, but we gotta make it a little bit more simplified. And...
I think too is like the trick if you're gonna go in critical is to have a completely open conversation prior and say, like, I only want the best for you, so that's why I'm going to destroy your logo right now.
I love it.
This comes out of a place of love, not criticism.
Exactly.
This is like, you're a roofer, but this has got flowers on it.
Exactly.
So
it's like I had one guy come in with a logo, and it was a really elaborate logo, like really elaborate. And there was just shading and there was shadows and just the whole 9 yards going on. And he's like, I want to get this put on hats. I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm like, we can't put this logo on hats. Well, that's what everybody says. Why do I always go to embroidery places and they're always telling me they can't put this on, they can't do it. And I'm like, well, the amount of detail in this is just, I was like, to get that to even stand out, you're going to have that as like a huge, and then that's not going to fit.
A plaque on the hat.
That's not going to fit on your hat.
Yeah.
The only way around it in that sense, and just to accommodate the customer, is like, I'm like, the only thing I can do for you right now is we can do a patch. Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, but I didn't want to do a patch. And I'll be like, but that's the only way you're going to be able to keep your logo. Because then at least we can sublimate it. We got the fabric. We can sublimate it onto the the fabric, and then sew it onto your shirt or your hat. So at least you can keep the legibility for that if you want. And
it just loses. I find thread feels good and it looks good. There's something about
quality, right? Yeah. I think there's a quality a bit to it. So 9 or 10 times when people walk in, they're like, do you guys do embroidery? And I'm like, yeah, we do embroidery, because they know at the end of the day it's more it's quality wise, right? So when people come in, it's a battle sometimes, right? When I have people come in and it's like this company and they're like, hey, can we get 100 sweaters? But we're just going to screen print them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's about a cost thing, but spend the extra $250 at the end of the day and embroider them, because your staff's going to wear them longer.
Dude, it's a very long-term marketing thing. So whenever I buy anything like hats, t-shirts, whatever, I always look at it as the long-term thing, because it's not just buying that t-shirt once. It's the fact that every time that person wears it, right, it's going to be out there.
Exactly.
And it's going to keep going.
And they're going to want to wear it, right? So, like, that's my big point. Like, I don't try and force people to buy things that are out of their range. But, like, a lot of companies, and I'll just say the trades and stuff like that are huge.
The trades are a great example.
Yeah. They'll come in and they'll be like, hey, I want to get my guys a sweater. And I'll be like, all right. And they'll go over and look, and they'll be like, all right, can we get these Gildan sweaters? Because they know they're cheap, right?
Cheap, yeah.
So I hate saying, and anytime anybody comes into Belleville, I'm like, no, we don't say the G word around here. And I will say, Gildan, you're great. You do have great products. Yeah. But I try and stay away from that, because you can get that in Dollarama. You can get that at Michael's. You can buy it on Amazon.
That does bring up an interest. Can people bring garments to you to get?
We do that. We try and stay away. We try and stay away from that, just because, to be very honest, we don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day, right? Let's just say you bring me in something like
my CK t-shirts.
Exactly, right? And it's something that maybe I don't get buying power on, and God forbid I put it into my machine and the needle goes up.
Wrecks it,
and now I have to replace that, and it's something that I don't really get good access to getting. But
I remember I had some shirts from, I think it was from Bootlegger. Back in when I used to have this weird kind of circular logo behind the amp. That was my trade-off for having the stupid logo, was I'd have this. And so like the designer's like, you're going to lose that eventually, which he was right.
There you go.
So, but on those I had like these bootleg shirts, which are super comfortable, because I couldn't find a shirt that I was really happy with at the time. Bella Canvas. I love you know. Like, that is my favorite shirt.
I love them.
So as soon as people take our shirts, they're like, this is so soft. It's like wearing a kitten. It's like,
I love that. Bella Canvas is probably my go-to favorite one, because obviously it's soft, but their colors too.
Colors are beautiful.
Their colors are beautiful.
Like, you can see like the
like even that color right there,
which isn't my red exactly, but it's close.
It's close, but it's a nice red that. I don't know, they just do all those colors that are so in right now with everybody, right? Like everybody wants the muted, tonal, demure, mindful colors. Exactly, like
full of color.
Do you guys have violet? Do you have sand? Do you have this or that? Like, that's all the colors people want right now.
Which is good.
Right? Which is great, right?
Yeah.
But so like if you come in with a Bella Canvas shirt, like it's a hit and miss right now, because one thing, and I'm just being very honest, at the end of the day of the business, if you bring me in Bella Canvas shirts, I can get Bella Canvas shirts, right? Yep. So it's like, it's weird on that aspect, right? Because it's like, you could come through me and I can get you the shirts still, instead of you going out of your way and buying them and bringing them to me, because...
Which is pipeline wise makes sense, obviously. Right? If you're a business, then it's just like, hey, you know, I need 10 Bella shirts, these sizes, put my logo on it, good to go.
Right? But some people, I think, are under the impression that they have to supply things. Like, they're just like, no, these are the shirts we want, like, we'll go get them. But I try and educate people. So, like, Bella Canvas will stay on. So people will come in and they'll bring shirts and they'll be like, here's 12 shirts from Michael's that I bought. And I'm like, well, how much did you buy them for? And they'll be like, oh, they're on sale right now, 2 for $18. Yeah. And I'll be like, okay, well, I could have gotten them for you for less. Probably $9 for 2 of them, maybe. I don't know the price, God, but like, it's just, I try and educate people, not to put them down, but just say, hey, next time come through us. Like, big thing is Carhartt, but I'm going to shoot myself in the foot saying this. So Carhartt, everybody wants Carhartt.
Because they're comfortable, yeah.
Exactly. But a lot of things that company don't stock in Canada. So it's we do have a Canadian market for it, but we have to order through the States for it, or we order through Canada, but it comes through the States. So some items, it depends. Like, that's the one thing I have trouble with, is like, some people will come in and be like, oh, can we get Carhartt jackets? I'm like, yeah, we can do it. But then I go on, I'm like, all right, these are stocked in the States. It's going to be 3.5 weeks before we even get them. Or they'll be like...
and then you have to sign this piece of paper that if we mess it up, you're paying for it still.
Exactly. So it's just like, we can get certain things like that. Nike, Under Armour. Like, back to the thing is, when people come in and they're like, I want to get my company some sweaters. Let's get Gildan's and then this, that, this, and this. I'm like, just think about... I'm not trying to make you spend money, but if you were a business owner, let's just put yourself on the other side of it. You're a worker. Workers obviously want everything, but you've done so much work for that company in 1 year, and you're going to give them a $25 sweater.
It's like the pizza party, like, you know, celebration. It's like,
let's give them a $25 sweater that's not going to last long, I promise you, because the quality's not going there. It's going to shrink. The print's not going to be good. Even if we printed, the print will stay forever. But sometimes it's just not, the quality isn't there, right? So I'm like, spend the money, the extra $5-10 on a hoodie that's they're going to wear. So 9 out of 10 times when trades companies come in and stuff, I'm like, they'll be like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, get an Under Armour, get a Nike, get a Carhartt. And they're like, well, that's like so much out of my budget. And I'm like, I guarantee you though, when these guys aren't working for you, they'll still be wearing it. Because they'll wear it, and they'll wear it because it's a great piece. It's a Nike piece. It's an Under Armour piece. It's a Carhartt piece. They're going to wear it. And so many people still come back into the business. Like, even right now with Christmas, and they're like, yeah, we're just looking to get some new Carhartt jackets. Like, we got 5 new guys on the team and stuff. And not that I'm looking at their jacket, but I am. I'm being like, are you getting a new jacket?
Yeah, exactly.
Yours is kind of old. They're like, no, I've had this for 15
years and it works just fine.
Just fine. And I'm like, that's my, I'm like,
but that's service-based too, right?
Exactly,
like,
right.
But that shows you 15 years of marketing. Right? And all you have to do is walk into the bank and drop off your checks, and walk into the grocery store and pick up the groceries.
Exactly, right? And it's just like that, the whole branding thing, right? So it's like what the quality is going to be at the end of the day, right?
Do we want to wrap this with some conversation about AI logos?
Oh, sure. Oh my God. I got a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
I do.
Because I mean, they can do some interesting things.
It's incredible.
But most of the time, they're not really that usable.
No. So we use, not that we use, but I even try and use some AI. Like, AI has now taken over my Photoshop, which I absolutely hate. It drives me nuts because I constantly am getting pop-ups for everything. But it's on Canva now. It's on, oh my gosh, you can get ChatGPT. There's all these other things, right, that people can go on, and and it happens to me all the time. Like, I had one guy, sorry to be a little bit out, but he was a volleyball team, and he's like, hear me out. He's like, we're called, the DeWalt, we live on the street DeWalt. He's like, and we're a volleyball team. He's like, so I want DeWalt in the DeWalt letters. He's like, but I want 2 volleyballs in a sack, like a ball sack. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but I went on this crazy thing, and I just typed it in, and it popped it out for me. And I was like, okay, well, let me see it. And it actually did pretty goddamn good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, sometimes it does do pretty good. It blows me out of the water sometimes. I'm like, holy crap, like, this is pretty good. Or you'll go into pictures sometimes, and you're like, remove this or remove that. And I have to say,
shockingly good sometimes.
It's shockingly good. Yeah. Like, it kind of freaks me out. I'm like, this is going to... I mean, it has changed the environment. It's going to take over. And I've had the conversation with a couple people, and like, I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and I was talking to my fiance about it, and they say in 3 years, at least 35% of us will be out of jobs because of AI.
I don't think so. I think the jobs that you define right now will be gone.
Gone. That's
right. So like, I've seen it like with like copywriters is a great example. Copywriter is no longer just copywriter. He's more of an editor now, because we can cut costs by having GPT spit out the core or Claude or whatever AI spit out the core of it, and then they rewrite it with using that as a base pad, which is good because it saves them from doing the research and it reduces their hours.
Exactly.
So that's the only difference. So we're seeing a shift in that. So
yeah, I do see this shift in that. Like, it's aiding. Like, I can't sit here and say that I don't use it.
Yep.
I try and stay away with it. So I use it for social media a lot. Like, I am a really big writer, so I do like to write, and I follow some posts. So I'd like to say I kind of know what I'm talking about. But I use ChatGPT sometimes, just kind of stick it in and be like, because we try and do posts, and I'll be like, all right, it's a what you wearing Wednesday post, and I'm wearing this plaid shirt from Storm Tech. Write me a post, and it'll spit me out something that's absolutely perfect. Sometimes I gotta tweak it because I'm like, that's not the greatest or whatever. But it works like that. The problem that I have with it, and this is gonna probably stir some drama up, is the email part of it. I'm not about that. Like, we live in a world now that is very technology based, and it's very much templates after template. You can open up your email right now, and how many emails do you think you have that are AI generated?
I know based on my client, so I have like a really good client list right now, and I know 90% of them don't use AI for everything, just mainly because I can hear their voice in the email.
That's my point.
And so that's the key, is like, I think we're going to enter into a weird age where AI is going to be very noticeable.
Very.
And human touch is going to be very noticeable. So like when we do any kind of a content for web or any content for like blog or anything like that, we use AI to get the base on, but then we fill out the stuff. So for example, like a blog post, I would say to the blog post, I want to write a blog post about, branding apparel and its benefit for your small to medium business, or your SME, right? So give me highlights to riff on, give me facts so I can double check myself, and that's it. So then what it do is it'll give me like the structure, and I have to fill it in. So it's like, it's kind of like I was a painter before, but I know I don't have time to make this painting, so it hands me a painting by numbers.
That's a good way of looking.
And so like that's the best way to do it, because then you know your SEO, and you can even say to it like, what phrases and words do I need to be SEO compliant too? Because
you can push it. Like,
you can.
You can push it. Like, I've tried saying things like just like that, being like, it'll spit something out and be like, I don't like this. It sounds too
robotic.
Yeah, like, just put it like that, and it'll. It's really good about pushing things, but there's certain things that I still get them in their emails, and I open them and I'm like, oh my
all the time.
God.
Like if it's a marketing, so cold call emails, 90% of them are written by AI.
They are.
And it looks like shit.
They look like crap. And that's the thing, is like you just said it, is I would rather take the time out of my day to write an email because me and you have talked, right? We've had a conversation a couple times, and if I send you an email and you're like, this is not Riley.
No.
Like, that's my problem at the end of the day. Is like people being like, this is not the way Riley talks.
So I think there's two kinds of emails. The first is the email from the person, and the second is a system email. And so I'm very specific on which one I use. So the system email, absolutely, AI can do all of that, which is basically, here are the things that we've done, outline it for the client so they can understand what's left to be done.
Yep. Exactly. It's a good point.
For it. Done. But then there's always the bookends, are always human, and then there's in the middle with like, these are the things that we've got left. Because it's like you have to go back and forth communication, and you can just chop them off one by one.
Exactly.
Good to go.
Right.
And it's like that's very sterile, but it is when you're writing it out anyways, right? So stuff that I know is gonna be very sterile and repetitive and just the same, then that's when you can use AI and get away with it.
You can,
and I usually just tell it, just keep it simple, keep it to the point, and tell it this.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what I try to do. Like, even a couple weeks ago, I don't know if for the Small Business Week, the 3-minute pitch, they were doing.
Did you do that?
I did do that.
How was that experience?
It was great. I had a lot of fun.
Good.
I stressed out about it completely. I was like, I went in and I was like, I had my whole speech or whatever, and then I met with Ashley, and I was like, Ashley, I have a bit of a problem. And she's like, what? I was like, I love to talk. And she's like, okay. I'm like, I can't get this down to 3 minutes. She's like, really? I was like, I've been trying. She's like, well, have you used AI? I'm like, I don't want to. And she's like, as bad as it sounds, she's like, stick it into AI or into the thing. And she's like, say, please make a 3-minute pitch.
Yep.
And it spit it back out, and I had to obviously change some things and stuff like that. But that's where I'm using AI. It's kind of like that to
kind of like build a system,
build a system kind of, or even like right now, like social media with TikTok and videos. Like I will want to like post something about toques, and I'll be like, write me a script about toques, and it just not that because I know I can do it. That's the thing is I know I can do it, but I like having it just written out, and it's like, take an image of this, take an image of a close-up of the knitting, or do this and do that. And I like that because it's like, oh, maybe
it's a shot list.
Maybe I wouldn't have thought of that like all together and stuff. So I like that part of it being that it can generate
it's accessible, right?
Yeah. There's a new one that we just kind of came across. It's called Notebook LM. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it's a new one, and I've only played around with it a couple times. But when I found out that I won this, I actually there's so many different things you can do with it. But it's called Notebook LM, and there's a couple different things along the bottom, and there's one where you can just paste in a link. So I pasted in the link for Ricart, and it took a little bit, but you can pick different things on what you want it to do, and it says create a podcast. So you do. So you click it, and it creates a podcast.
Is that all this here now?
These are just some of my notes. I was listening to it this morning, to be honest. But it spit out a 19-minute podcast between a woman and a man. They just generate.
Is this the Google one?
I don't know if it's Google related.
Because Google had one. Now you're kind of hitting my memory there. Yeah. There was a Google one where you could input a complex thing and say, hand this to me in a podcast format within 15 minutes so I can understand it. Yep. And it basically was, they even had like laughing, they had jokes, breathing.
It was insane. Like,
shocking.
It's like even to the point like they're like, oh, like, yeah, and they're really, it's, I don't know, it's just so thorough. Like it actually sounds like two people are having like an honest conversation. Yeah. And it's just, it was kind of crazy at that point because I was like, oh it's my like, God, okay, this is where the world's going.
This is where the world's going. Yep.
This is where it's going.
Which is why I tell people that the human touch is always going to win out. So we have a core format of any business. Actually, this works for everybody. So there's 3 elements, and think of them as like buckets you have to fill up to get business. And it's very simple. You can narrow it down to KLT. Okay, so my students, if they're listening to this right now, are just like, I know what that means.
Okay,
so
I'm ready.
The K means no. The L means like. And the T means trust. You have to get above a certain point in these buckets before people will consider buying from you.
Exactly. Okay? I agree with that. Yeah.
Right. So, they can know you and not like you and not trust you. Right. They can know you, like you, but they still don't trust you. And they can know you, like you, and trust you. Or if you have to get a certain amount in each bucket, which means you have to give freely, which is like, this is the new economy of information. So if you're out there and you're pushing out your content all the time from a sales perspective, no one's going to watch it.
Nobody is.
Right? No. So you need to go into there and say, what can I give for free that has value?
Exactly.
Right? Because then that's going to build the like and trust. Yeah. Right? And they get to know you from doing that too.
That's what I'm trying right now to get on the TikTok thing and stuff, right? And it's like, but this is coming back into it. So the person who was doing all of our marketing and stuff was kind of in the old school version of it, right? Yep. Templates, this, that, this. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, actually, and they were like, no, templates, this, that, this.
You can use templates. Just be smart about it.
Be smart about it. So then I actually messaged the girl who does the podcast, not thinking she'd answer me. She actually did.
Wow.
She's like, hey, just kind of went over your social media and this, that, this. These are some of the points. And I kind of was like, yes, this is everything I've been saying that we shouldn't do.
Yes.
Like, I don't do, like, we're in a different world now. We need to attract a different economy or different audience, right? So it's like, at the end of the day, I'd rather do a funny video. Like, I always think of videos on TikTok. So like a big one I'm thinking of doing, and my boss is probably going to hate me for it, but a big one I'm thinking about doing is like, I keep seeing this video on TikTok, and it's girls have you ever seen, and it's girls testing themselves out doing stuff in high heels. Okay. Right? I mean, they're just testing, running around, and their boyfriends and husbands are freaking out. Yeah. So there's only one other girl, me and Eve, who work there, and we're always told we can't wear our high heel boots because it's a safety issue. But both of us are always like, I can do anything. I was like, I can do anything in these things. Yeah. So I want to replicate one of those videos from TikTok of the girls running around doing all these crazy things, like jumping off stairs and stuff on their heels around Ricart, because that's a trend that people are doing. Yes. There was another one that was like, people hiding like the little plastic ducks and frogs everywhere, like those, like, and there was hundreds of them, and people are just finding them everywhere. I'm like, let's do that, even though it's not branded related. Let's just get on what people are doing for TikTok wise.
Do you want some free strategic advice?
I'd love it.
Okay, so every corporate entity wants to be corporate when it comes to socials. Socials is not your website. It is not your brand. It is your voice.
Exactly.
So what you need to do is understand that first off, like templates. If you're going to template it, have your own template for it that works. For example, it could be, you guys having fun around the office. That could be your template, right? And that's your formula, and then you build upon that formula and make it work.
Yeah.
Right. The second thing is do you expect to change everything if you're always doing the same thing? So a lot of the times they keep putting out the same thing and going, one day it will hit. They're putting in the numbers because they think that that's what works. It's not what works. We've tried doing multiple postings a day, doing the same thing every time doesn't work. So you have to switch it up. The things that we find that work really well are being relatable, funny, inspiring, or educational. Right? That's it. And the rest is like just time and seat and consistency. And then don't be afraid to experiment. So with your content, if you got a corporate entity that won't budge, make another channel.
That's a good point.
You make another channel, you direct it back to Ricart and say, we're just one of it could be like the Ricart girls or something like that. And that's how you do it. So you build your own channel that goes in parallel with it.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
And so then that way, because there's a lot of marketers out there right now who are young marketers who just want their bosses to let them do it. Show them.
Yeah.
Go out and do it, and then say, oh yeah, by the way, we got 50,000 followers. Compared to your 5,000 followers, that's nothing.
That's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of what's happening right now.
So that's the way to do it. It's like you can start like a Ricart Belleville, right? So a great example is like Domino's. Domino's has like Domino's Belleville, Domino's Trenton, Domino's, right? So they can test bed all these different things. It's like now go and test bed a whole bunch of different things, right? Have fun with it. Like I think for yours, baseline content, like doing something like this with business owners is great, and just talk to a business owner about what they do.
Exactly.
Right? That's kind of the amplified way. We're even the AMP, we're changing that up a little bit. I know, right? Yeah. So then the second is the consistent content. So filming, making a hat, right? It could be the controversial tip of the day. It could be like a hot take or something like that. Embroider onto a hat, right? It could be like things I wish I said in an email.
Exactly.
That kind of is going to sell way more attention. Attention equals consideration. Consideration equals more sales. So like over time, again, socials is slow. You can get more sales from this, but you have to understand that you can't just go into it expecting someone to like it because you put up, your Ricart logo getting made on a machine. It doesn't work.
It doesn't. That's the thing too. And it's like, I'm trying to push this as well too. And it's coming back because now there's numbers right on Facebook, but it's like, this post here got this much engagement, but if I just post a picture of myself, like example, Children's Foundation Purple Hoodie Day. I posted a picture of myself in just a purple hoodie, no template, no nothing. That picture got way more engagement than something else did because it's real, it's raw, it's just.
So now ask yourself, what does the client do? And then ask, what does the client want from that client? Because I know you're going like double deep like we do as well. And then what you do is go and interview people like that. So just have your phone and just say like, hey, what do you think of this? Right? Find something that's a little bit more controversial. Right? And talk about that. So you could turn around and say, like if they're a florist, for example, just say, what is the one flower that's going to die the day it gets home?
That's a good way to look at it.
Right?
Yeah, like
so find something that's going to make people go, what? Like, why are we... I want to know more now, right? Like, what flower am I not buying now?
Yeah.
Right?
What why are not do? Yeah.
Why are roses overvalued? Something like that, and then just see their responses, right? See their reactions.
That's a good idea too. I like that.
Doing something simple like that is going to garner way more attention because people want to be entertained. People don't go onto social media to watch an advert.
That's my biggest thing. I'm like. It's like it was just pushing this, that, this, and this. No engagement. I'm like, people don't want to see this. They're not signing on to Facebook to see, or TikTok or Instagram to see this type of content.
I've been doing it for close to 2 years now, like consistently, and I'm reworking my entire thing because I realized that going through this, it's like, oh, I've learned all this stuff now. So now it's like, what is the show that I'm putting together? So I look at it like a mini show, right? So like I want to do more kind of like looking at existing marketing and breaking it down whether it works or not. So like I just recently talked about the Jaguar rebrand. That's kind of the forefront of what I'm going to be doing moving forwards because AMP does branding. So I need to show people like, hey, this is what we would do if we were in control of that project.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So something different. We don't need to show it. We just need to give people the opinions and the insights so that when they're making their brand, they can go, oh, Ash was saying like, don't do this.
Don't do that. Right? Yeah, exactly. Right. And like
Ash said he hated his logo to start. So
It's honest though, right?
Yeah.
Like it's raw and honest. And I think that's a good point though, because some people do want that, right? At the end of the day.
And they're going to want it more now.
Exactly.
Because of AI.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like Luke's, my fiance, his boss is like, he fights with all of the girls in the office. He's like, we're not doing this stuff. And the girls are like, well, let's do a video of this. Let's do a video of that. And like Luke's always laughing. And his boss is like, no, I don't care. He's like, I'm 64 years old. I don't want it.
Record that. Like that right there. If you just like, you know, we've taken over the social stream and our job is to try and get our boss on board with making social content. You know, day one of trying to get our boss to make social content and then just like film him losing his shit.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, I know I would love that in here. I'd be like, no, I don't want.
No, exactly. No. That's why like I kind of reached out to the one girl and I was like, just do it. And
just
she's like,
record him doing that.
Just do it. And she's like, I can't. He's my stepdad, kind of. I'm like, well, he's your stepdad. Do it even more than
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like just do it.
Yeah,
like,
you got some like extra sway that you can get away with it.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, too. Side note, I'm like he is so. Maybe he's not all social media. I said, but he is the definition of social media from the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
So he might not like it on the computer, but when people start going, oh my God, look, we saw you on this, he'll love it.
You know what's going to happen too when he retires? He's going to be on Facebook all the time. So
exactly, he'll be doing this.
He'll be a star by then.
He'll be a star, right? He'll be a superstar and everything. So, yeah.
Riley, this has been awesome. I'd love chatting to you.
Thank you, Ash.
If people want to get to know more about Ricart, where can they get hold of you guys? And what's your social streams, all of that fun stuff?
So we're just down on Dundas here. I have gotten so many different people who have...
Because you're like opposite the radio station, right?
Yeah. So this is mine. So I've had people... When I first started working, I said, yeah, we're just across from Star Wars Communications. And people are like, I have no idea where that is. Say the Pentecostal church. I'm like, okay. So I started saying, oh, we're down by the Pentecostal church. People are like, I have no idea where that is. I'm like... Then I had somebody say the Humane Society. I'm like, okay, so we're down by the Humane. So I'm like, we're down in this area, okay?
Yeah.
The end of Walridge Road.
Go find Mix 95.5. Is that right? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah,
and basically it's opposite there.
Yeah, so we're right across from the radio station there, right beside You Make Me Smile Dental Center there. We are open right now from Tuesdays to Fridays from 8:30 to 4:30. Because everybody who comes in, they're always like, how do I get Mondays off? I am in Peterborough on Mondays, doing anything and everything I can, because that's really the only day I get with production, really, right? So Mondays I go to Peterborough and I'm with the sales team, so we have sales meetings. I get to pick up some orders, talk to the production people and stuff from there. But you can email me. If you have a pen and paper, my name is a little difficult. It's rileigh@ricarts.ca. We have one of the crazy phone numbers, 343-453-2644, and I will happily answer your call. But I would love for anybody and everybody who can to come down into the showroom. I know we're closing it up, but this was my main reason on taking this job, because being in the industry for so long, I just felt like Belleville was lacking something, and I didn't really know what it was for a long time, but this opportunity came along and I was like, this is what Belleville's missing, is the touch and hand feel of things, because I can't tell you how many times in the last 3 years before I was in this part that people have ordered stuff and I don't even know what it looks like too, and it comes in and it's genuine crap. Yeah. And now at least this point we can order it. I can say, you know what, yeah, it's going to be great. I've done the product. I've printed it. You can touch, feel it. They know. So they're not surprised at the end of the day when it does come. But I want everybody to come into the showroom, because anybody and everybody who does is completely blown away because they had no idea it was there. So anytime, I'm flexible too, by appointment, because I know people were late.
Do you have a leave behind if they come to the showroom?
We don't right now. So I know. But we're working on all that. So yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting. And so website and Instagram, I think we missed those two.
Yes. So website is www.ricart. I'll do RICARTS.ca. So that has all of our stuff on there, as well as an online design lab as well too, because lots of people are getting into that stuff. But yeah, it's got all our catalogs, all of our information. I think it's got some pretty pictures of all of us on there too, for all our sales jobs and stuff. And then our Instagram is Ricart Belleville as well, and our Facebook is just Ricart Branded Apparel and Promo at Belleville as well too. So there is 2 pages, but the Belleville one will say Belleville, and the Peterborough, which is our head office, is just Ricart.
And are you going to experiment with TikTok?
I've been trying to. I have been. So I've created a couple little videos. The thing with me right now is I'm a one-man show or a one-woman show. Yep. What do you call it?
One-man band?
I had a good word for it. A Jill of all trades, I like to call myself.
I like that.
So I'm a Jill of all trades. So it's kind of sometimes like I get into the groove of it. So like I'm like, okay, yeah, great, we're good with socials. And then I'm like, oh my God, I got to deal with customers. And then I get into my customers. I'm like, oh my God, now I got to deal with the show. And it's like, so that's just a little, as we get busier, I'm not complaining because it's getting busier and I love it. And we actually had the conversation yesterday because it's been a long time coming, not a long time coming, but it's just been a little bit shorter or a longer time, I would say, like we just said with the economy and stuff. So Rome wasn't built in a day. And my boss told me that many, many times because I would come in and be kind of, not down, but just be like, I don't know, I'm putting in all this.
Impatient.
Exactly. I'd be like, I'm putting in all this effort and going to these meetings and stuff, and just nothing's coming back. And I was always told, what you put in now will come back in the time. And
I can tell you, as someone who spent many, many years in this environment here, the time in the seat is massively overlooked.
Exactly.
If you can stay in the same seat and do the same thing for a long time, you will get known for that, and that's key.
Exactly. And one guy, I'm going to give him a little bit of a shout out because he said one of the most beautiful things to me is Rob Crisp from the Grayson Shelter, and he came in to pick up his order and everything, and we were just talking, and I've gone over there to volunteer because that's a big thing in my thing too. Is I feel like if I give at least a little bit to these other companies, they'll come to me as well too, right? So I volunteer for the Grayson and for the Children's Foundation and the Belleville Sens because that's what happens, right? And I forget where I was going with that. With the Belleville Sens and Children's Foundation.
You had a shout out for someone.
Oh yes, for Rob. Sorry, Rob. But one day he came in, and this was a couple times after we've met, and he said something, and he said, Riley, do you know what you've done today? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, you've planted seeds. And I was like, what does that mean, Rob? And he goes, when you plant seeds, he's like, what happens? And I was like, things grow. And he goes, so what did you just do? And I'm like, am I growing myself? And he goes, yeah. He's like, what you have done in the last week, he's like, is you've planted seeds. He's like, and you're going to grow. He's like, and I know you're going to flourish. He's like, and I know you're going to blossom into one of the most a great company in this area. He's like, so just remember to always plant your seeds. And I'm like, that was beautiful. And he said that to me back in April, and my seeds are growing. I got some blossoms going now.
Good.
So it's good. So like you said, impatient. You want it to kind of happen right then and there. So now to see all the hard work paying off, it's great. Yeah. It's a big sigh of relief. And
exactly.
It's like, oh my God, it's actually working. And my last point I'll say is it was a big thing just for me, ego-wise, to kind of take this on. You know why. Being in the industry for so long, I got to meet a lot of people in this industry, a lot of people in this area. So going to Ricart, I knew I was going to be stepping on some toes. I knew I was going to be ruffling some feathers, and I knew it was going to be a battle against Ricart. So it was blood, sweat, and tears, I'm not going to lie, for a while. But to see where we are now, and to even see the orders that I get, between me and you, I guess all of us, sometimes when I get an email, I'm always like, yes. I'm like, haha, never thought I'd ever get in contact with that person, but look who's ordering from me now. Yep. So, no, it's been good. It's been putting your head down, just doing things, not stepping on any toes and stuff, and seeing what I can do. And it's starting all to really pay off, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So,
amazing.
Yeah, it's been very good. So thank you for today and everything.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Perfect. That was awesome.
There you go.
Thank you very much. All right, that's just this.
Yes.